Even though the man had lost all his wages to gambling, he still picked up a brick and smashed it down on the factory director, who was just washing his car. Seeing the director collapse motionless to the ground, the man arrogantly turned and began to walk away. But unexpectedly, the whole scene was witnessed by a neighbor of the factory director. "What are you doing?" "Murder," the neighbor shouted, although the man, Guangzi, immediately tried to flee. Nearby workers who heard the yelling quickly gave chase. Soon, Guangzi was cornered near a sewage pit. The police arrived shortly after receiving the report, but instead of calming down, Guangzi became even more arrogant. He shouted that he was actually a hero for the people, claiming that he had found out the director had secretly sold the land to a corrupt developer at a low price. This forced the workers to buy expensive resettlement housing. So, in his mind, what he had done was justice. As Guangzi grew increasingly agitated, the team captain Lian Haiping became concerned he might fall into the wastewater and vanish without a trace. Lian told Officer Shi Chongfeng to sneak around from the back while he himself distracted Guangzi from the front. Meanwhile, the factory director had been rushed to the hospital and was no longer in life-threatening condition. The workshop supervisor reassured everyone that since the man survived, Guangzi still had a chance to avoid a complete downfall. As Shi Chongfeng noticed that Guangzi had calmed down, he prepared to subdue him. But when he moved in, Guangzi panicked and fell into the pool of water. Despite knowing it was industrial wastewater, Shi had no choice but to jump in and rescue him. Fortunately, because the factory had stopped production, rainwater had diluted the sewage, so neither of them felt any discomfort underwater. However, no one expected what came next. When Shi Chongfeng pulled Guangzi out, Guangzi was gasping in horror and couldn't speak properly. The police immediately evacuated all the workers. Captain Lian Haiping then jumped into the sewage pit to investigate, and what he found was shocking. A female corpse was floating in the water. Her eyes were wide open, and her legs had been cleanly severed. The police recovered the body. From the visible wounds, they suspected this case might be connected to a murder that occurred back in March. Just as they were preparing to investigate the identity of the deceased, a young man, emotionally unstable, suddenly burst into the scene. Luckily, Shi Chongfeng acted quickly and restrained him. It turned out that the young man was a friend of the victim, and both of his parents were longtime employees of the Shuri Sunrise factory. From his account, the police learned the victim's name was Shen Xiaozhou. The female officer looked outside and noticed a man staring at them intensely. That day was originally meant to be a celebration. Shen Xiaozhou had just graduated from university and was returning home. But her parents never saw her at the station, and repeated calls to her phone went unanswered. Worried, her father decided to visit her dormitory personally. However, her roommates revealed she had never returned the night before. Sensing that something was wrong, her father immediately went to the police station to report her missing, just in time to hear her name mentioned during the ongoing investigation. After confirming the victim's identity, the police began a deeper analysis into her cause of death. Although the surface details seemed similar to the Wang Yishan case from 3 months earlier, there were major differences. For example, the amputation of the feet was done differently, and Shen Xiaozhou had both feet severed, left and right. Also, the tools used to assault both girls were different. One appeared to be a rare multi-faced cylindrical object. This was unusual. If it were the same killer, why such a drastic change in method? The police called for a case review meeting. Since no DNA had been found on either victim, they could only rely on years of investigative experience to judge whether it was the same killer. From there, they could determine the right direction for the investigation. Detective Zhao, who led the Wang Yishan case, was convinced that the two cases were linked. But Lian Haiping believed there was only a 50% chance. Wang Yishan had bindings on her wrists and ankles, Shen Xiaozhou did not. Also, Zhao noted that Shen Xiaozhou had visible fingernail marks on her neck, suggesting the killer didn't wear gloves this time. If it was the same killer, what caused the change in behavior? Zhao insisted that the major similarities were more important than the small differences, arguing that even the same killer can change methods. Eventually, the higher-ups decided to merge the cases but split the investigations. Zhao would continue with Wang Yishan's case, and Lian Haiping would pursue Shen Xiaozhou's. Whoever made progress first would lead the joint case. Lian Haiping immediately ordered the tech team to retrieve surveillance footage from around the Shuri factory. But since the area had recently been converted into a development zone, cameras within a 2 km radius had all been taken offline. Still, the technicians managed to find 3 cameras located beyond that 2 km range. Lian Haiping wasn't discouraged. He told the team to carefully examine the footage for any suspicious individuals and also list all vehicles that could potentially hide a person. Next, he returned to the station and instructed the female officer Hua to examine the victim's call history and chat records. Most chat data is stored locally, and accessing it without the physical device would be difficult, but they had to try. What no one expected was that the killer seemed to have anticipated this step. That very night, the murderer burned Shen Xiaozhou's phone and other belongings, leaving behind only her student ID, which he pocketed and took with him.